In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong direction. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization, dehumanization. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization. Technology, social organization, dehumanization.
America and their ongoing takeover of the Middle Viceversa was also a graphic designer. Christy!
Hi everyone!
According to 6.66. But today, of course, the subject that we're discussing is also present in Volume 7 and in Volume 9, Sino-Russian New World Order Takeover, which means also China.
Technology, social organization.
Thanks to Vincenzo Viceversa for the sound and to TelePandemia Albert for the video. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show with Leo and Christy.
Hi everyone! Hi!
Hi everyone!
Here we are.
Here we are, Saturday, February 24 of the Year of the Lord 2024. So 24.
Do you have any meanings?
I don't know, we're going to have to calculate it. Probably it does. What we know is that definitely it does, because it's 2 years to the date that the military operation, like Putin likes to call it, a war, like the West calls it, has started. So Ukraine, of course, was already a mess from 2013, 2014. And then later on, we have, of course, more and more tension with the Russian minority that was methodically sided and persecuted. And in the end, we have the intervention of Vladimir Putin after the declaration of independence. But today we are here thanks to our sponsors, and that's why we have to thank them. Christy, who are our sponsors?
Okay, for this week we have... Can you undo that?
Okay. Yaroslava Kramarova.
Louis Daly. and Margaret Zaraminta and Bruce Kodish.
And
Everybody that bought the books.
everybody books the books. So we have also Christie's book.
We want to say something too. We
Yes.
have to make an announcement.
What?
They took our video down from last
Yeah,
week.
yeah, that is really making you understand how dangerous we are. On YouTube, the censorship was without notice. There was no strike inflicted. And so we immediately reprogrammed it. Of course, now we have a less number of views. But why did they censor it? They censored it because of the sanctification of Alexei Navalny that is currently taking place, that brought even the wife to meet with Joe Biden this week. So the Leo Zagami show had to reprogram. But this is very unusual because usually you get a strike.
Yeah.
But they told me they violated the norms of the community, but they didn't inflict any strike, anything. So we were able to simply rebroadcast it, thanks also to the help that you have given us to upgrade to the more professional StreamYard service.
How many stripes do we have?
No,
we don't have any stripes?
No, that's the strange thing. That's the weird thing.
Good,
the moment in which the wife of Alexei Navalny arrived to the United States, I noticed that the video was already reacting with the algorithm internal to Facebook, since yesterday also. They have put in a notice like, which is also stupid because we have specified that it's not Alexei Navalny in the video. Yeah. But they say fake, they say for the correct news, this is not Alexei Navalny. No, it's basically his assistant. So, but they don't like this video. They don't like this video. They want to glorify Alexei Navalny to sainthood. And we instead will show you the video again.
We will expand our activities, of course, with a little money. If somebody would spend, I don't know.
I replayed it like somebody is saying in the chat. Is of course never been banned or censored from banned.video. So I will always advise you, when you don't see one of our latest shows, suddenly it's removed because they're obviously censoring us, to simply go and ban the video. If not, we have reprogrammed it already 2 days ago, and we have done it because they removed the video. Christy was very upset. You
were really upset. I was
quite upset myself.
It was lately the videos, since we've been doing the news, we get more views on the videos. And so, I kind of look. And it had gone for the whole week. It only went away yesterday.
No, it went to win the wife of Navalny, right? The United States.
You just said that.
No, I mean, no, I'm not saying. I think that is not really a coincidence, Nothing is a coincidence. This week, something happened. America was hacked. And I will tell you the story behind it, because the real story about what has happened with AT&T and Verizon and the network outage has not yet been revealed. And today you will be able to understand who did it. And instead the information, of course, they want to give you, which is complete propaganda and lies, but we will stick to the facts. This was the outage.
Of course, we continue to stay on top of breaking news right now. If you're waking up and you're having trouble with your smartphone, you're likely an AT&T customer. They are experiencing a nationwide outage, maybe even beyond that. It's impacting those carriers. We've not heard any carriers beyond that, but if you're on the AT&T...
We are indeed on Rumble, on BitChute, and on Band.video. So you can always find us there if this video gets put down once again by YouTube.
Network, it's an issue.
Or if you rely on the AT&T network, you could be affected as well. People are having problems with calls and with texting, and they might even be unable to call 911. This is something that is impacting.
This is been a big thing, no? So why did it suddenly happen? And why they came up later with an excuse saying it's just an error?
Our systems at Fox 35 here as well. Fox 35's Morgan Parrish is live following this breaking news story for us this morning. Morgan, good morning to you. And we really are still kind of trying to figure out exactly what's going on here.
Hey, good morning. That's right. Yeah, so AT&T hasn't said anything yet about this outage.
AT&T to this day has not said anything about this outage, which happened in a very critical moment for the American national security, because suddenly there was around the media worldwide, especially the American media, they were talking about these documents that somehow had been hacked, documents that revealed the kind of security apparatus of China, the secret system that China is using worldwide with these hackers to enter even in our own country's security. And the fact that basically, you see, Christy, they started like this. It's not a coincidence. I mean, it's just a warning what has happened. These dissidents, of course, gave this information through this company called iSoon. It was an online dump of hacking material, but the press talked about it only for 24 hours. The moment in which they hacked AT&T and Verizon and basically paralyzed America, this story was no longer on the press.
Oh.
So here, you understand?
So that story came out first.
Okay, so yes, first...
and it was like a warning.
No, this was the story that came out. Then at that point, the Chinese got angry because, you see, the Americans were talking about this online dump of Chinese documents. And so I'm going to get you to read some of it to understand what happened here. I want to, by the way, it's always annoying with these things, and probably we are getting the sabotage left, right, and center. But I'm going to try to get this into a browser that functions better. And I want Christy to read what is basically the dump that make us understand the secrets of Chinese hacking at the moment, which is often delivered through private companies that do pervasive state surveillance for the Chinese government, also in various countries of the world. So let's talk about it, because this was the reason why America was hacked, and why now America will, of course, try to say, no, we were not hacked, because it's very embarrassing. Let's read this.
China.
Okay, just a second here. The Associated Press article by Frank Bayak and Dake Kang.
Chinese police are investigating an unauthorized and highly unusual online dump of documents from a private security contractor linked to the nation's top policing agency and other parts of its government. A trove that catalogs apparent hacking activity and tools to spy on both Chinese and foreigners. Among the apparent targets of tools provided by the impacted company, iSoon, ethnicities and dissidents in parts of China that have seen significant anti-government protests, such as Hong Kong or the heavily Muslim region of Xinjiang in Chinese Far West.
Dump of scores of documents late last week and subsequent investigation were confirmed by two employees of iSoon, known as Soon in Mandarin, which has ties to the powerful Ministry of Public Security. The dump, which analysts consider highly significant, even if it does not reveal any especially novel or potent tools, includes hundreds of pages of contracts, marketing presentations, product manuals, and client and employee list. We are talking here about something that really pissed off China, and that's why they unleashed these hackers on America the day after. So this is unprecedented. It's an attack on America. Of course, it's not revealed. It's kept totally top secret. But the new version that they give is fake. The new
It's
version,
so lame.
Yeah, I mean, they want to...
an update. Updates do screw you up, but
No. It's this is a more serious. I mean, the excuse that the AT&T gives says massive cell outage was because of a technical error is basically complete rubbish. This is not a technical error.
If you were like me this morning, you may have thought that it was just your own personal phone. We know the outages started happening between 4 and 4:30 this morning. And if you are still experiencing this, and we know some users are getting their service back, you'll see SOS at the top of your phone, which means you can really only make emergency phone calls to 911.
So this was happening in certain parts of the United States, and it happened after this dump of documents, leaked documents from a Chinese firm that show a vast international hacking effort on the Chinese side, and trove leaked documents that are, of course, from Chinese state-linked hacking group that shows also their power, their access, and immediately after, tack, we were hit just as a show. And this is another very important revelation for today, as we are talking about China also in the Middle East, because the show today wanted to talk, of course, about the AT&T outage, because when it came out, it was the same leftist press, including CNN, that talked about the possibility of hackers. But like you see, like you have seen, it's kind of like disappeared quickly. Now nobody's talking about it anymore. Suddenly it's just like they even made 5 things to know about the massive AT&T outage, and how did the AT&T respond, and all the rest. But at this point, who is behind all these cyber attacks? So let's go and see the percentage that is given from a research center on the hackers, the countries that are more inclined to hack.
I have a question.
Yes.
About it. So it was just
once it used to be Russia, if you remember. They were the number one hackers in the world. But now in the chart, as you can see,
you're saying that the Chinese got mad and did this cyber attack on, but how come they just did it on AT&T? How come they didn't do it more broadly?
Okay, there is also another reason that the people are not connecting to this whole thing, that we had also once again another discovery of another Chinese balloon. It is a balloon, a spy balloon, but nobody's really talking about it that much. It's like, what's up with this balloon that basically nobody wants to talk about? Seems a little bit weird.
Why did they just hack Verizon and AT&T?
Verizon, of course, these are the most important ones, and the ones connected to the emergency services.
Oh, okay.
So first response, that means that you can paralyze literally a society. We have to understand that China is, of course, protagonist of this. Like I said, who is behind this, the cyber attack? Statista tells us these are the country. They were just flexing their muscles, basically, make us understand something without, doing something too damaging. After all, there is a series of compromises that behind the scenes, Biden and especially Newsom, who is greeted as a hero in China, have done. So here you have who is behind cyber attacks. You have also 44% not identified, 44.8. This not identified is usually the very states that denounce the hacking.
That's like most of the thing.
Well, it's the counter hacking, the counterintelligence. China, as you can see, 11.9% has now joined the ranks of the first hacking country, and then you have Russia, then you have Iran also, Ukraine, and then you have, of course, United States. But United States it's put there 2.3 because those are the hackers in the sense of hackers. Then when you talk about state actors who hack, that's a different thing. That's why we have all these state actors that are under the 44.8, because otherwise there's no explanation. This analysis, of course, demonstrate how China could have, like we have just said, but of course, it's possible also that China at the moment wants to give a signal right at the start also of what is increasingly becoming evident to everybody. It's already a Trump era that, you know, is coming into fruition, even if the elections are still to take place. We had the CPAC today, this conservative gathering in which Trump was literally received like a superhero. Let's go and check out, of course, also Zelensky, because Zelensky himself was a protagonist of a pathetic little show with the head of the European Union, Justin Trudeau, and the Italian Prime Minister. So that is also something that we definitely have to check. But first of all, let's continue analyzing the situation 2 years after the beginning, of course, of the hostilities, even if the hostilities had already started. Zelensky on Fox went on saying he basically didn't watch the interview with Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson recently traveled to Moscow, sat down for an interview with Vladimir Putin. Did you happen to see that or coverage of it?
I heard some messages and in media, and also my guys who are advisors, they said. So I don't have I don't have time to hear more than 2 hours of bullshit about us, about the world, about the United States, about our relations, and this interview with a killer. So I've got some briefly what was there.
I think he's lying. I think he's lying.
Me too. I was going to say I thought he was lying.
You must watch what your enemy is saying, because that is part of the war game. I mean, it's impossible somebody like Putin will ignore what Zelensky says, for example. He will at least have a briefing. The same attitude is Zelensky having, but Zelensky, this was the only interview really by the Western media since the beginning of the series. You haven't watched it. I mean, it seems fake.
Yeah.
It's in complete fake. So here we have going back to China that is hacking the West, China that is somehow behind the war in Ukraine, playing various roles, being very ambiguous, of course, is the role of China, both in Ukraine and also in the Middle East. But in the Middle East, they are gradually taking the place of what used to be the British intelligence base for almost 200 years. So, I mean, we have an increasing number of people that understand that China is moving behind the scenes, stronger and stronger in the Middle East. They at times broke peace deals and things, but then under they have weapon deals and other things. You know, maybe they stop one nation to sell the weapons to the Houthis, so then they can be the ones selling them. You know, but then they they do this scene where they seem to be bringing peace, and when in reality they are, of course, playing a game of chess together with Vladimir Putin on the international scale. But the fact that there's been probably a hacker attack on American interests, and we're talking here about, of course, a very brief one, but this shows also the weakness that our system might have. At the same time, we are continuing encouraging this pathetic war, and of course, I have to show you this pathetic scene. Here is, of course, the propaganda, typical propaganda. We have, of course, Zelensky, we have von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission, we have Justin Trudeau there, and we have Giorgia Meloni for Italy. The typical march that you have on Passo dell'Oca, that is the march that really here, it's typical of the Eastern or the Nazis. It was actually adopted also by the Nazis. Passo dell'Oca, we call it in Italian. Here you have Trudeau a little bit far there, and you have Zelensky giving this pathetic show with this Nazi of the European Union, von der Leyen. In fact, she's German, and the whole show is demonstrates in their eyes solidarity towards this war, which could have terminated a long time before, but they want to continue, though America is not supporting this war, so it's going to be a little bit difficult. But at this point, while Ukraine is on the ropes, and we have the Alexei Navalny death, which is also very suspicious, the whole thing, the fact that immediately, I mean, if somebody dies and then after 2 days already the wife is there, then it's there, then it's there, and then finally she joins in a synchronized effort Joe Biden at the White House. Come on, let's in all this in 1 week. European Commission. I mean, it's and why wasn't she in Russia with the mother of Navalny? Why she was just already abroad with the whole family?
She didn't look very sad.
She didn't really look that sad. The whole thing is pathetic, and it's pathetic the fact that they want to censor us because last week we broadcast the truth about this guy who was asking the assistant of Navalny, so we were accurate with that reportage. There's no way they can say we were not accurate. We were accurate, and but they don't want to, of course, show that. It's not something. I think it's a clown show what is happening with Joe Biden, and Joe Biden, of course, is.
What about Nikki Haley? She's a clown show too.
Well, that is another clown show, because talking about Nikki Haley, we had the endorsement by Newsom. I mean, if you want an endorsement, who basically said that Nikki Haley is a Democrat surrogate.
That is like being endorsed by Satan, one of Satan's representatives.
Well, I mean, I think that.
Oh, she's just horrible. And then I hate the way she brings the vets into it.
But
she keeps talking about the vets, and she keeps saying stuff about Trump and the vets. And Trump did a lot for the vets. So
he has won double the South Carolina primary at the moment. Trump got 64. I think she got 33. I mean, double of what almost. Nikki Haley completely failed. Nikki Haley,
she's not giving up.
She's probably not going to give up simply because she's paid. But it's completely ridiculous to think Nikki Haley has a future anywhere. She's just working for the military industrial complex. And in fact, the husband is in the military abroad while she's doing a dismantle campaign. Trump had an easy win, let's say, in South Carolina, which is supposed to be the home. But that's why they didn't vote her, because they knew better than vote for Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, a complete, I mean, she needs to get out of the race. She's really, her race has no sense, if not the sense of all the
no fees or minimums. And no overdraft fees. Banking with Capital One is the easiest decision.
Sorry, we have an audio coming in. But what I'm about to show you soon, as soon as I can, will be instead the Newsom endorsement, if we can manage to find it, because it is a way to make you understand this rhino, total rhino,
Rhino.
Republican in name only. It's a bit straight. No?
Yeah.
Of course, people say, but is it your image of the Vatican back there that is not straight?
No, everything's straight.
Everything is straight.
The camera's tricky.
So going back instead to the Chinese, last year the Chinese took control of the Middle East when they managed to get, after a very, very long time, we can say really since the 1970s, Iran was never, during the time after, of course, after the Shah, in any way connected or had friendly relations with Saudi Arabia. These two nations represent, Saudi Arabia is really a product of the Sunni Wahhabi world and is traditionally been closer to Great Britain for since the beginning. They were a protectorate of Great Britain. They are part of that. While instead the Chinese have managed to get on the table in Beijing the Saudi Arabia, the people from the diplomatic service of Saudi Arabia and the ones from China broke this deal with Iran. Eventually, this three deal came together. Let's talk about this, of course, in a moment. First, I wanted to show, of course, the news of moment when he's endorsing Nigeria, because that's pretty demented. Nigeria is a product really of the military industrial complex in China.
I know you want Joe Biden to win. Do you think that Haley or Trump would be easier to beat for him?
First of all, I think she's one of our better surrogates, so I hope she stays in. Hope she does well tomorrow.
All the nasty stuff she says about Trump.
She's spot on 99% of it. So I'm enjoying this primary, and I hope it continues. So I wish her luck. But look, Trump's the nominee. We all know that. You know that. Everybody out there knows that. And I think the polls are suggestive she's going to get well up tomorrow, and then she'll make a case, I guess, just to continue in this. But again, I have no problem her continuing for as long as she wishes, because I think she's making a good case against Trump.
Head-to-head polls suggest that she would clean Biden's clock.
Yeah.
And it's a tougher race.
Trump's the nominee. Everybody knows Trump's the nominee.
So
it's not a state that, with respect, there's no evidence to suggest, there's no polling to suggest, there's nothing to suggest, momentum or otherwise, that she can win any state in the Republican primary coming up. So it's just not. Donald Trump is the nominee. Everybody knows that. No, I don't mean that to be dismissive. I have respect for the former governor, a lot more than the former president, Donald Trump. But as I said, I wish her luck in the context of being out there and making the case that we're making against Donald Trump equally.
So you're also making a case for Joe Biden. You're trying to make a case for President Biden. The CNN poll of polls today finds Biden's...
He's making a case because, of course, he went to the White House.
I think we have to ask the Oracle.
ISIS has spread like cancer. The mess I inherited.
Today, in the CPAC meeting, Donald J. Trump talked about when he eliminated ISIS, something that was deemed as impossible, because ISIS in the end was a creation of the Hillary Clinton-Obama era. So it was something that was built by the CIA, and it was encouraged to some extent. So it was part of this strategy, of course, that was made to undermine Syria, that was instead, of course, becoming a strong base in the hands of Russia that was defending Assad, which eventually prevailed. I mean, then Trump destroyed in a short time ISIS, which still lurks around, just like Al-Qaeda, that apparently now is having a new heyday. You have to understand that we go back to Afghanistan and what happened in Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been I mean, you, Christy, you saw it. You come from a military background, and I think that you understand.
I come from a military family.
Yeah. I mean, and so you understand.
Everybody's in the military, everyone.
Yeah, and so it's important to understand, though, because Al-Qaeda is starting again also because, of course, they have given the possibility also for Afghanistan to become the base for China. And Trump said it, we used to have a air base there, 50 minutes away from the Chinese have these nuclear arsenals, and we gave it away in this strategic location. So today, when we say China hacks America, China is hacking America, is infiltrating itself in the Middle East. It's becoming obvious that during this was another thing that Trump also stated today, very important during the CPAC. He stated that at one point Iran and the terrorists were without any money. If it wasn't for Obama giving them that big airplane full of cash, you remember, and he marked also the Hussein in Barack Hussein Obama. So this is basically the whole thing here. The confrontation is with China. China, though, is the Sino-Russian world order that includes also Iran and you know, the Houthis, these people who are now creating problems in the Red Sea. Well, creating problems in the Red Sea, but not for Russia, not for China. China is strengthening its position, and Saudi Arabia has joined BRICS. BRICS is the alliance which puts together all the countries like Russia, China, and all the others around Russia and China. Basically, the new Sino-Russian world order has BRICS.
It's like bricks.
BRICS, yeah, here we go. Let's check it out.
Rang in the new year, a Chinese and Russian-led group of emerging economies welcomed several new members. Egypt, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Ethiopia have officially become the newest members of BRICS. The addition of Tehran was a surprise to many, especially owing to its long-standing rivalry with both Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, though all sides have been trying to mend ties recently. The alliance has also managed to bring together...
ties recently came because of the Chinese. It was the Chinese that last year broke this historic deal. Guys, the deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia is one of the most important deals of the new millennium.
双方改善关系，为实现中东地区的双方都展现了改善关系的诚意。
Saudi Arabia was an asset of the United States. It was basically, we used to also have, because it went from being an asset of Great Britain to become more and more an asset of the United States. But this has been put into discussion and into crisis, and nowadays this happened. I mean, they opened the doors to the most improbable alliance because of China, which is making more and more business than ever with both Iran and Saudi Arabia. We, back in the days when the Iranian revolution took control at the end of the 70s, we talked about also in the past with the Ayatollah Khomeini, prohibited any other country to buy oil from Iran. That in the end ended up having a very special relationship with Russia. But at the same time, now China doesn't care. So this was the deal, though, the historic deal that they broke last year in, I think it was March 2023, in an historic deal.
沙伊双方达成了重要的协议，宣布恢复两国的外交关系。我认为这是对话的胜利，是和平的胜利。这个协议也为目前动荡不安的世界提供了一个重大的利好的消息。对话就一定能够找到解决问题的彼此。中东是中东人民的中东，中东地区的命运应该掌握在中东各国人民的手中的问题，还有很多事关和平、涉及民生的问题。
Now, let's not forget that Saudi Arabia traditionally has quite good relations with China, but not this close since recent times. And now they have joined the BRICS. So
Ethiopia. Another pair mired in a dispute over the flow of the Nile River. With the latest
Egypt also is very strategic for the Suez Channel and everything that goes with it.
Brazil, Russia, India, and China later added South Africa in 2010. The group's main objective has been to boost economic cooperation and trade among member countries. But many have called the bloc the biggest geopolitical rival to the G7, a group of advanced economies. The addition of traditionally strong Western allies like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE have boosted those claims. Last year, Brazil's president, Lula da Silva, called on BRICS nations to create a common currency.
Somebody said the right thing, that basically nobody looked happy at the meeting we saw before. But this is not a happy meeting. It was probably forced to some extent by China, which is really strong these days and is capable of brokering such deals, something that in the past was an exclusivity of people like Henry Kissinger or America in general. So while all this is going on, the weakness that, of course, Biden is showing on the international stage becomes more and more evident when the whole confrontation started, because also of the recent crisis on the 7th of October. Let's not forget that China sent to the Middle East a number of warships.
China has entered the growing tensions in the Middle East, deploying a significant naval presence as a deterrent against American forces. However, officials in the security system and experts in the civilian sector are unanimous that China will not intervene in any case.
Yes, they will not intervene, no problem.
The Secretary of Defense made an official announcement on Sunday, revealing that they are dispatching 6 warships to patrol the Middle East. This decision is seen as a direct response to the United States' significant military buildup near Israel. Currently, Chinese warships are actively patrolling the Persian Gulf, and just last week they engaged in a joint military exercise with Omani armed forces. Both security officials and civilian experts are in complete agreement that Chinese military intervention, whether it's through their navy or other means, is highly unlikely, even in the event of a northern expansion of the conflict, involving not just Hezbollah, but also other components of the radical Shiite axis, which includes Iran. This assessment is based on several facts. The first is that there are 2 Chinese naval task forces currently in the region, one in the Indian Ocean south of Iran.
In the end, China didn't do anything apart from continuing their adventures around the various seas without any problems, because the Houthi terrorists, between brackets, terrorist mercenaries, we can say, that have been in the past connected with Iran. Listen, Iran used to give weapons to the Houthis, okay? This group that is sabotaging the ships that pass through the Red Sea. At one point, China broke a public deal of peace, basically stopping Iran from giving weapons to the Houthis. And one thinks, wow, China is a good country, is participating to world peace. Well, listen, what happened later on was that we find out that China instead sold the weapons themselves after. I mean, they simply stopped Iran from selling the weapons to then start selling them themselves. So China, they are pretty sneaky, absolutely. And this is what the Sun, US, says about China and their plans in the Middle East, in the hotspot of World War III. Here we have the article. And of course, it's always difficult here to get to this. I have to. Sorry, guys. I will get Christy now to read it. I will move it to another more readable browser. Okay. Here we are. Here we are. And then see what they are saying about it. How Xi because this is, of course, Xi Jinping, happily with all his Middle Eastern allies, quest for power, how Xi is casting weak Britain aside to make China the kingmaker in World War III, Flashpoint, Middle East, and seek world domination. China is threatening the new Western-facing regional order promised by US-led deal in the Middle East. Here, Christy, please.
President Xi Jinping is casting a weak Britain aside to make China the kingmaker in the Middle East as the despot vies for world domination, a security expert has warned. For years, Xi has been shoring up support for China in the Middle East in a bid to cast Beijing in a leading role in the region's politics, a part previously reserved for the US and UK in the West. Chinese president.
Here's just shaking his hand, but we have, I think, more here from this article.
And now, Barack Senior, a senior research fellow at the UK-based think tank Henry Jackson Society, has warned China's power in the region has only increased since the Israel-Hamas war and the Red Sea attacks on commercial vessels by the Iran-backed Houthi rebels. Mr. Senior, founder of the geopolitical risk assessment and consultancy firm Strategic Intelligenta, told The Sun that China's aim in the region is to wield even more power and to destroy the UK and the US's influence in the Middle East. He said by casting Britain and the US aside in the war-torn region, China will be crowned the kingmaker in the Middle East. The region is the source of much of the oil Beijing needs and a nexus in Xi's huge infrastructure building project to connect markets around the world to extend the nation's influence. Beijing shares similar interests to Tehran when it comes to ensuring the long-term faltering of UK and US influence in the Middle East, Mr. Senior said ahead of the launch of his Henry Jackson Society report on Thursday. China has used its economic purchasing power and diplomacy to secure its geopolitical interests in the region. The fact that Arab and Muslim ministers chose Beijing as their first destination to meet all 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council last November demonstrated the centrality that China has acquired in the ongoing Middle East crisis, Mr. Senior added. Mr. Senior said in order to halt China in its tracks, the UK and US must become signatories of the 2020 US brokered Abraham Accords.
So this, and then it says the Abraham Accords is a peace pact signed by the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco with Israel, and they were quite successful. We are going back basically to the Trump era, though. It says here, with Israel war ongoing, the Abraham Accords remain frozen, waiting for new diplomatic efforts to revive their potential. It's like, of course, China, in the meantime, it says at the same time, the new Western-facing regional order promised by the Accords is under threat from the growing influence of China. China, it's really growing strong in the Middle East. It's because we have a weak president who is basically a clown. Let's go and see back first of all, let's see when he arrived in LA, because we had him for 3 days here in California. We have him in California for 3 days trying to rail people that give him money. And the arrival in LA was like this, but then after I want to show you a scene that is even more pathetic with Nancy Pelosi. You see somebody, it's a miracle that makes it alive out of the plane. It's like thinking that it's this side.
The colleagues focus the way they're making sure it doesn't fall down the stairs.
Chasing him down if it falls. Watch. That literally behind him to make sure that he doesn't. But the moment that is also very symbolic, I think, is the meeting with Nancy Pelosi and in this journey around counties and, of course, the most important cities here in California to gather money for his campaign. There was also the encounter with Nancy Pelosi, who held hands with Biden. Yes, in the airport. This is the radio. Geriatric.
It's like happy hour here.
God, the radio. Incredible. Completely corrupt by China, because that's how California is. Here we are. He made it. He made it with Nancy. When Nancy is actually holding your hand and try to make sure that you don't screw up,
You know you have problems.
then you know that you have sincerely some big problems. And this is the White House propaganda show after he went back into the White House. And there was Newsom waiting for him.
The only thing I need to learn how to write is needs breaks. He was, well, you finally got it. Come on, wake up.
What?
So oh, thanks. I have a teacher.
More demented than Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, there is Jill Biden, who apparently is the one who is forcing Joe to present himself again for this second match.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Absolutely.
Counted in your high school consensuses. So, thank you.
Yes, Mayorkas and Newsom, the guy who is ruined basically our immigration system. He has sabotaged it. Newsom, you're cool, man. Yeah, with me, you're gonna have, it's really. And then,
there are,
ladies and gentlemen, Kamala.
few leaders as committed to bipartisan collaboration than Joe Biden. President Joe Biden knows how to work across the aisle and across every level of government to make progress. Globally and domestically, he has a bold vision for our future.
I was going to put him
And he has the strength, and I see it every day, and the skill, and the courage, and the determination.
I know you just heard, did Jill already speak, my wife? And where is my Secretary of Agriculture? Is he here? Well, he's going to be here tomorrow. Tom Vilsack is going to be here tomorrow.
What do you think?
Man, what the heck?
Commander-in-Chief, oh.
No.
That's Robbie speaking to the G7 folks, so some of the heads of the European Union and NATO today. We're all here for one reason, to fix the problems. That's a fact. And we're just getting started. It's just the beginning.
We took the beginning.
And as rebuilding the Botnick Bridge. We cut the deficit by doing all this by $1 trillion so far.
Yeah, sure, whatever. That's right.
I've signed legislation going to cut the federal deficit by another $1 trillion over the next decade.
Another right, probably.
Nearly 15 million new jobs created, a record.
Yeah, wow. I mean,
this whole thing they're saying about our economy being fine
and Joe being so successful.
I mean, does anybody believe that?
I mean, it's just
we can't even go out to eat. We can't. I mean, everything is just so expensive here, and it's expensive everywhere. I'm sure.
It's crazy.
We're just getting started. For example, we capped insulin for seniors in Medicare at $35 a month.
And some plans may offer it free. So for everybody that was getting ripped off and paying tremendous prices, senior citizens, and Seema, I want to thank you because you brought this to my attention a long time ago, and you worked very hard on this day, and the press won't even cover it.
This is really the moment, you know, that you really understand the guy is so screwed up that the guy has wait till the press leaves. For some, it's elderly abuse. I mean, this constant situation with Joe Biden.
Well, he asked for it also, so.
Welcome to the Leo Zagami show.
He's too mean.
Yeah,
he's mean. He's mean a lot.
He's old and mean.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem with Joe Biden. Okay, I'm gonna put the GoFundMe.
Oh, yes, say.
We want to thank the sponsors, of course, because that is important. We thank them.
Try. Yaroslava Krokmarova, Louis Daly, and Margarizada Minta, and Bruce Kodish. Thank you very much. And for everybody that bought the book, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, because you are permitting also the possibility for us to carry on with this show. Of course, it's 2 years from the beginning of this war. I explain you why. Actually, before it even started, I explained you why this was not a short war and it's going to last. I mean, this book came out in early February 2022, and the whole unfolding of what came next was predicted and more. So it's a great book, Volume 7, to understand certain things. At the same time, Volume 9 explains you really who is behind this war in Ukraine and the Ukrainian identity that was artificially created, but also all these lies that are circulating about Ukrainian victory. It's completely fake. There's no victory whatsoever in sight. And it's important that people understand that the Russian invasion is a failure. Even PBS, so the public, broadcasting service, said that basically, with one of their experts from the Carnegie institution, they actually had to admit that the war is not being won. But all the propaganda since this morning, it was like being in the Twilight Zone. Ukraine is winning. Ukraine is winning. The reality, at least PBS had the courage to broadcast
nearly
this.
10 years ago. With the conflict at a frozen and brutal stalemate, Nick Schifrin now takes stock of what's been gained and all that's been lost.
In 2 years, countless wives, now widows, sons, now orphans.
Okay, so you have this introduction, and then you have the expert, and the expert starts talking about the situation.
300,000 soldiers are determined but exhausted,
outmatched, but exhausted,
and increasingly outgunned.
And it is the outgunned. But then it's the expert that really confirms that the situation is really bad. This guy here.
Position. That is very clear. Ukraine has a deficit in terms of artillery ammunition. Part of that is because it depends on Western support for munitions, and it has a deficit of manpower. It needs to replenish the force, particularly the infantry component of the force. Now, while it's true that Russia is materially advantaged in this war, that much is clear. If we look at manpower, particularly if we look at artillery, to a lesser extent equipment, that advantage at this stage is not decisive either. The battle for Avdiivka, which was a 5-month grinding fight, tells us about the challenges both militaries face. Ukraine is forced to retreat after fighting a defensive battle but it inflicted very high costs on the Russian military. It cost the Russian military almost an entire army's worth of equipment, and equipment remains the limiting factor for them. Right? So that being said, this year is clearly looking like a year during which Ukraine is going to focus most likely much more on holding, defending.
So why is this happening? Because until now, I mean, with everything being blocked at the Congress by the Republicans, now the only possibility they have is to maintain position. They can't advance anymore. They wasted all their weapons on the so-called unproductive counteroffensive. And in the end, now they don't have any more weapons. So the little they have to use to defend their positions. Russia is not necessarily advancing, but it is in certain areas which, of course, they claim as part of Donbass, of the Russian ethnically prevalent regions. However, what you have heard in the media today on the 2-year anniversary is a bunch of lies. I mean, at one point, this guy, Zelensky, is saying basically that they are winning. And people in the media are echoing in echo chambers of demented activism the fact that the war is won, no matter if Russia is actually winning on the ground at the moment. But this is a lie. So even if PBS, the left wing, because it is a public service, but it's made out of libtards, is given the possibility to this guy to say that the war is not being won.
Trying to rebuild and reconstitute the force, and maybe creating challenges for the Russian armed forces with expanded strike campaigns.
Rebecca Heinrichs, do you agree with that assessment? And do you think the U.S. needs to go further than it?
This, of course, is another person that is there and gives their own account. But I think that it's important for people to understand that the war at the moment, after 2 years, is not being won by the West in any way.
So far,
we have to be honest. Apart from the propagandists, the people, there is the reality of the war, and the war is being lost.
Enough artillery to send them,
and at that point, by us who give him weapons. And, fortunately, the U.S. has stopped. Fortunately, the U.S. has stopped, and Donald J. Trump will have to intervene from day one to bring a peace deal to the table.
That they will not have enough manpower, and, quote, Ukraine has already lost.
Okay, first of all, I just have to disagree on the facts. The United States has plenty of artillery, just doesn't have the money. And artillery production, both in the United States and the European Union, is increasing significantly. We will be in a much better position by 2025 than we are now. Second, Russia's fires advantage right now is about 5 to 1. It's not a decisive fires advantage given the main constraints the force has. Third, when it comes to manpower, there's a lot more to military analysis than basic algebra. It's much more about how you use the forces you have and your ability to convert your resources into combat-capable and effective formations. Russia has a lot more people on paper, that is true. But the Russian forces in Ukraine...
It's only 300,000 forces left to the Ukrainians. I mean, that's what they have. They had probably 500,000 dying more, but now they have 300,000 left. That's it. So it's not really a situation in which they can win. And China lets this war go on in exchange, of course, for a strong collaboration with Russia, which has made out of Russia a country more and more dependent on the Belt Road Initiative, on China since the beginning of this war, because when we put another 500 or whatever sanctions on Russia, we are putting them really on a lot of companies here in America that are dealing with business with Russia, and that will no longer have the possibility to make money. So these impositions in a situation in which basically we have this Sino-Russian New World Order versus the rest of the New World Order, which is, of course, generated prevalently in Davos, in the World Economic Forum, like I explain in my books. That's where Klaus Schwab gives his marching orders, but there is also, of course, the summit, World Government Summit, which also saw the participation of Tucker Carlson, which is also a Klaus Schwab creation, like also the Organization of UFO Leaders, which is also another Schwab organization. These organizations are all part, of course, of this number of, they are the more known think tanks, groups of influence that are transversal, but they are really demonstrating a very strict alliance at the moment within what is NATO, an alliance that, of course, is now trying to fight in any way what's happening with Russia and China, which are expanding more and more. And the Middle East is a place in which this situation is happening faster and faster. There is things that are really very weird that are taking place at the moment in the Middle East. Like, for example, Saudi Arabia has just purchased a port in Egypt, giving them access to the Mediterranean. This is news of the last few days that shows that basically Saudi Arabia, which is now the new ally of China also, is making a deal with Egypt, which is also allied with Russia and China increasingly. And they announced a $35 billion deal with the United Arab Emirates to buy a premium Mediterranean area. Abu Dhabi will pay Cairo for Ras El Khimah, which basically is within the next 2 months. So it's a deal that is being closing. It's now just a payment with the funds earmarked to alleviate Egypt's economic crisis. So Egypt is starting to sell. So now Saudi Arabia is buying entire pieces of land with...
And then it becomes the property of Saudi Arabia?
Of course.
You can just do that?
Well, they are two Arab countries, Muslim countries that are very close with each other. They need money. Egypt needs money. It's in a very difficult situation, and they don't care. America doesn't want to purchase it, and so the Saudis are buying it. And probably the next ones to buy more ports in these countries, like Egypt, will be maybe also China. China has done this already with other ports, but this is happening instead with Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Access to the Mediterranean. So, see, access to the Mediterranean and a strategic partnership with even the Houthis that bomb anything that passes through the Red Sea that is not Chinese and Russia means that these people then can bring into the Mediterranean exclusively everything, and other companies will not be able to do anything. Understand? So it's like increasing depending on the Sino-Russian New World Order, which I have discussed since volume 7, because I think that people don't understand the importance and relevance of what I was trying to explain here. There is, of course, two factions, but in the end, there is only one faction that counts, and is the one that is going to develop ultimately the artificial intelligence and take over the show. All this propaganda that we see at the moment is because they want to stop Donald J. Trump from arriving to the White House, because the next 4 years are critical for the development of the most groundbreaking invention in human history, and the development of it in the next 4 years will categorize the future of mankind, leading possibly to the monstrosity of the transhumanist era if it is in the wrong hands of the democrats. Hopefully with Trump we will arrive to a series of regulations that will make it less dangerous. And if you remember, during the interview with Vladimir Putin, that was one of his things, talking about regulating the AI was one of his priorities, and he wasn't absolutely wrong. So the AI is developing. We had the Google AI that basically it's creating a lot of problems, because with this project they have talked about, I don't know if you saw on the internet, the Google Gemini issue about the creation of all these images, historic images that not
were
really
not-
accurate
yeah.
because the AI
Why is it
apparently
doing that?
because the people who created that AI, like it's basically showing here, just like there has been denouncing, the reality thing is very different. For example, Alexei Navalny used to be a Nazi, used to hate black people and used to incite all kinds of anti-Semitic behavior. And then he becomes the hero now of all the woke people. Suddenly is compared to Jesus Navalny. Here we have the instigator instead of the AI, one of the main AI platforms out of Google, which in a way is suspending the Gemini image generating feature because it's a completely woke situation in which these images generated are absolutely inaccurate. Now, without being able to show them to you immediately, but I'm sure that you will see them around the place. And this is part of Google, because Google it's fighting white privilege. That's what they're doing. So they transform suddenly historic characters, but also Nazi soldiers and black soldiers, and all kinds of inaccuracies that here Google apologizes after new Gemini AI refuses to show picture achievements of white people.
That's just so dumb.
So it is absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. Yes, this is the crazy world that we are living in today.
I can't imagine. It would just be so.
So the white people can't, and this guy is behind the door. That guy you saw behind the door, and now we can go and see this guy's message. Let me see if I can find it before. Let's see. Here, yes, echo here. That's the guy. I've just seen the left tab. Let's see if we can show once again the terrible things that this guy was writing at some point, filled with systemic racism. It's this kind of situation is really disturbing because it shows that these people are racist against themselves and against everybody else who is white. This is what he was writing. White privilege is. And I want to repeat the phrase because it is effing real. Do your part in recognizing blast at all levels of. This is the guy who has made the AI of Google racist because he is a racist. They reflect the creator.
So the programmer reflects the robot. So if
the AI reflects the programmer. If the AI is a woke person, they will program it in a way that it reacts following their woke ideals.
That's not good.
Absolutely. So, and then you have things like Microsoft posting that white employees are paid less than the minorities. This is another company. So you have Google. And you have Microsoft boasting that they less the white people and the minorities.
They get paid less?
Yes.
The white people get paid less?
Yes. It's racism.
That's so stupid.
But this is they definitely encourage people to become racist in a way that is pathetic. It's terrible.
Well, I mean, it's just dumb. It's stupid. It's going backwards. It's just everything's going backwards. It's satanic, upside down and backwards. If you see yourself going backwards, it's satanic.
It is definitely. There's a lot of satanic stuff going on, and they themselves admitted that, I mean, when you transform political characters and a whole history of a race.
You can't do that. Oh.
Basically, they have declared war on black people, white people.
They can't.
Declaring war on white people seems to be the new trend of. But
well,
all
I'm
these
not
things.
Be racist.
Remember that all these things start from the World Economic Forum from Davos, then they get pushed outwards in Silicon
It's just
Valley,
these
they
stupid
get
idiots.
embraced.
It's their ideas. It's not the Americans or all of us. It's just a bunch of really evil people that try to dictate what we're going to do.
By the way, now a New York elementary school is handing out Black Lives Matter coloring books, transgender affirming. This is another important.
When I went to the New York City school system.
And now it's been, you see, Black Lives Matter published a booklet for transgender affirmation.
Gosh, I'm glad I was born in the 70s.
The principles in the book are described as empathy, loving engagement, and all these things that, I mean, it's just like they are creating, and then of course, affirm the importance of Black women, families, elders, and LGBT folk. Everybody's important, equally important. I mean, this diversity of Black people that is being encouraged more and more. I know that there has been some injustice in the past, but we're living in 2024, and we kind of went back to the dark ages of racism thanks to these people. Fundamentally, the KKK was always a democratic creation. Joe Biden used to hang out with the great wizard of the KKK. So it's total deception, this whole thing. And then you have, you know, if you go and ask the AI, is Zelensky probably Nazi? The AI in the hands of these people, ChatGPT, will probably reply that Zelensky is not a Nazi, while instead Putin is a Nazi. When we have really historic evidence,
They say everything backwards. Everything like they'll attack you, but everything they say is just the opposite of what you are. I noticed that also in personal attacks. People will say things about you that are completely wrong and not you at all. And that's really very, very evil.
Former Google employee says he was told he couldn't be promoted because he was white. So, I mean, this is really kind of clashes with America and what America stands for. I mean, the fact that an employee said that he couldn't be promoted because he was a white man. This kind of crazy racist stuff shouldn't have any place in our society. And instead, we are in front of our society, which is increasingly divided. But if you, of course, listen to Karine Jean-Pierre, well, Joe Biden is a great hero, Joe Biden is perfect, Joe Biden is extraordinary, Joe Biden is unifying rather than divisive as a figure, which is completely wrong.
They say everything opposite.
Anyway, I mean, it's completely the opposite. So this was the entrance instead of Donald J. Trump at the CPAC. Check this out. Rio Americana. Rio Americana.
USA, 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 USA.
This is a nice crowd. That's how.
And of course, a great discussion speech by Donald J. Trump, who also talked about a variety of interesting topics, all relevant for today. And I think that he was very sharp, really very sharp today at CPAC. He really lectured the audience on a number of topics. I mean, CPAC is an audience filled with experts, people from the conservative world, from all over the world. We had following after we had the Milei, also before, I don't remember, was it after? Milei, the guy with the crazy sideburns. Argentinian Italian. Then you had the other guy from, I think it was Ecuador the other day. I mean, there has been also interventions from people from all over the world that go to this CPAC, but definitely then the star of it all was Donald J. Trump. So he went from there to South Carolina as a star, while Nikki Haley is just being a pest. It's a complete pest, but let's see what's going to happen next, because of course now we are seeing that the White House is weaker and weaker, and for that reason we should rejoice, but at the same time we have to be very careful. What is Nancy Pelosi planning behind the scenes? Who knows? We know also that.
Do you think she's still doing stuff?
Of course. I mean,
why is she still doing stuff?
This discussion they hold was eventually has to be taken as a very important discussion, because they were talking and going together on an helicopter, places where people can't hear to what they're saying. People that they have the opportunity, even if they do a brief travel from here to there, to discuss matters, and who knows what Nancy Pelosi is really conspiring. I believe that we need to be aware that they have, of course, they have used all the judicial system to their advantage. They broke with every previous American tradition in persecuting a president for political reasons, and these people will not stop for anything. So the Joe Biden is not really Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a tool of a group of people who ultimately, like Trump has said today, is controlled by Barack Obama.
Barack Obama.
By Barack Obama. Yes. That's what Trump said. Actually, that was
China too, though.
But China, of course, is the guy. Is the one with the money, the one that makes the business, and Obama goes along with it. That's for sure. But Obama is possibly behind the scene. We don't know when Joe Biden will eventually fall from this race, leave this race, but it's highly possible. We had also Steve Bannon today, who, Steve Bannon even took aim at Sean Hannity, which was quite interesting. We discussed Sean Hannity in the past when we were discussing the CIA controlled journalists, though Trump had good words for Sean Hannity, so he kind of like wanted to almost defend Sean Hannity. Bannon said that Trumpism, that basically the MAGA brand, will rule for 50 years in America, and under a variety of names. Regarding instead the vice president choice, and this is of course the last topic I we want to discuss, but it has to be clear for everybody that I think Trump hoped for maybe either DeSantis or Kennedy
to be his running mate.
Probably, but they both refused. DeSantis refused in the last 24 hours. He categorically said he will not be Trump's vice president, though he dropped out of the race because he understood at least that Trump was too powerful. But that's and then you had Robert F. Kennedy. This is what Robert F. Kennedy said.
You have now 86% of the people in this country who are saying that President Biden shouldn't run. You have 80% who are saying they do not want a matchup of, the lesser of two evils. They want somebody who's going to inspire them, who's going to offer a new path. And they're not getting that from the two men who've already been president. The reason that this problem is happening is because of the last two administrations. We need to change what's happening in this country, and if you if you make the same voting choice, you're going to get the same thing.
When you look at the war in Gaza, if President Trump is gonna offer you to be in his ticket, would you accept?
No.
No, not at all.
One on the war on Gaza.
Thank you,
One on the war
everyone.
on Gaza, if possible.
So absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Too bad you can't be his running mate.
Well, I'm not yet American. Hopefully soon.
Can you
and
be
that's,
a vice president when you're
I don't know about that because you see,
I
the
don't
power
think
falls on the vice president first, and then on the speaker of the house. So this is what
be a
happened.
governor?
You can be a governor, yes. So going back to the vice president pick for Donald J. Trump, the Vivek Ramaswamy card is definitely growing. It seems like there is also discussions with Tulsi Gabbard. There is the possibility, but having Tulsi, that's a possibility. Let's see what happens. But Trump is definitely winning. I don't understand why other people, even within the alternative community media, even bothered with other candidates. We all knew that as good as they were always second to Donald J. Trump. Now, I think that Tulsi Gabbard could be definitely a good choice, but I also think that at the moment, Nikki Haley has completely ruined her political career with no possibility because simply she is a tool of the military-industrial complex. She's there to act as a pain in the ass, paid by Soros and Soros surrogates to be a Democrat surrogate, like even Newsom said. So Vivek might be the young, fresh guy who. And then we have all the cases that, of course, against Trump, that they're still trying to stop him, the money that they want from him now, an extraordinary amount of money for something that was never, this kind of crime, didn't see anybody actually hurt or anything financially. Everybody got their money, so it's no crime.
It was a
really.
perfect company.
I mean,
it was perfect.
It's crazy. And then the Fannie Willis regarding instead the Fulton County, Georgia situation, she has her affair, and now that the actual evidence is coming out of the phone records, this is evidence that she lied to the judge.
Ooh,
Fannie Willis.
She's gonna get in trouble.
She's gonna get in big trouble. So Fannie Willis is probably having some big problems. Regarding Trump has made some statement regarding the black community, saying that black voters like him more because now he's a badass, basically, after his mugshot and stuff. Now, Trump is very honest, at least, but it's true that in a sort of hip-hop black community, the badass, Snoop Doggy Dogg likes it, 50 Cent likes it. No. Well, the badass is not a wimp, so
I was arrested too. I guess I'm badass.
So Trump say black voters like him more because of his indictments. Whatever, who cares?
I'm getting Rambo. He's
in an era in which now the wife of the mafiosi become the fashion icons, in which Joe Biden goes in front of the White House staff and says that the secret of his good marriage is sex when he's 81. What do you think of Joe Biden say the key to his marriage is good sex?
I want to know.
And then Jill got upset.
I want to know. I really don't want
Rambo, what do you think about it? Okay,
I'm ready for the dance. We're ready for the dance. We're ready for the dance. Baby, you're rude.
China is hacking America and taking over the Middle East. Hopefully with Trump, we are still in time to stop China.
You're going on the couch. Back on the couch.
Back on the couch?
Back on the couch. He doesn't let me dance. He's rude.
Yes.
He just wants to.
That's it. Rambo for vice president, says somebody. Huh?
Here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Shh, look out for the devil. Look out for the devil. Look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I. You're so afraid of old man Satan. Now, why don't you stop your hesitating? You're gonna be a long time dead, so the devil with the devil, says I. You're always giving me the dickens, telling me that life's no easy pickings. But just as long as I have fun, why, the devil with the devil, says I. You can have your social teas and bingo for your fun. But the things I like to do,
support that you're showing us with the sponsors is the only way we have to move forward also for next month. So we encourage you to help us through GoFundMe, through Cash App. You can find the Cash App link at leozagami.com. Thank you so much from Leo and Christy. Have a great week.